So if you're on this channel, then it's because you are interested in electric mobility or you are interested in knowing more about the future of electric mobility. Now, I'd like to thank all those who have followed me since my last video. Now, why is electric mobility important? Electric mobility is important to me because it was part of the things I looked at a little, well, close to 10 years ago. 2024 will be exactly 10 years ago when I began to look at the future of energy and the future of electric mobility as a means of transport. And what made me delve into this subject was a tool called scenario planning. And that tool is not new. That tool was introduced into the corporate world by Shell Corporation. And Shell is a leader, if not the biggest leader in the area of, oil and gas. So Shell introduced this into corporate world in the early 70s. And since then, it has been applied in several ways in the corporate sector.
Shell has a target to become a net zero emissions energy business by 2050. You may have heard about this kind of target. But what does this actually mean? Net zero means not adding to the total emissions in the atmosphere when we produce and process energy, and when customers use the energy we sell.
Now, beyond the corporate sector, governments have also applied this tool called scenario planning. An example is Singapore. Singapore actually went as far as inviting the strategic and the scenario team from Shell to help them in imagining futures for Singapore.
Well, Shell has played a very critical role, especially in the early years, in helping the Singapore government develop scenario planning as a basic tool for strategic planning. Without scenario planning, we would not have gone as far as we've come in terms of our ability and capacity to plan for the future.
And another country that has also used this tool in planning is South Africa.
So scenarios became part of everybody's planning processes in South Africa. Soon after the Montfleur scenarios, trade unions, the NUM, COSATU were using it in their organizations. But what it allowed the government to do and the people of South Africa is to think about the future from the same premise. All that Shell wanted to say was that we have a tool, and the methodology that we use in scenario planning can be used anywhere in the world.
These countries I have mentioned will give you an idea of how important this tool is. A tool that was simply applied in the corporate sector, but has since then, evolved into something that is used in governance. So I chanced upon this when I visited Amsterdam, and I had the chance, a very rare opportunity, of sitting in the classroom with 6 of the most brilliant minds I have ever met, who were coming from all walks of life, from different countries, to talk about the concept of scenario planning and how it applies in their field of work. And I had the opportunity of sitting in the classroom with the head of strategy for Port of Rotterdam, and how the whole concept of new energy has altered their investment in, preparing the port for oil and gas, and how they have to now adjust, to the whole concept of, or a new energy. So it struck my attention, but I was primarily in that classroom for, research purposes. I was writing my dissertation and I was curious about it. My supervisor paid, helped me apply to get a 50% discount. And I went by road from England to Amsterdam. Why I am very particular about electric mobility and pushing hard and being an advocate for electric mobility, in Africa, is because some of the factors and some of the actors that must be at play in the positive direction for us to begin to consider and accept electric mobility as a means of transportation are already there in Africa. Now, standards and the quality of life in Africa is going up. contrary to probably what other people may think. Standard of living has gone up over the last few years. And that is one factor. Another factor is that, even though cost of living has also gone up, of course, the kind of jobs that people do, the kind of exposure people have gotten, and which is allowing them to earn certain amounts of income, has also increased. So people can afford things they could not afford probably about 10 years ago. Also, technology has become cheaper. Electric mobility, when it started, was quite expensive. Like every other new technology, when it starts, it gets very expensive. But over the years, thanks to China, electric mobility has become cheaper and cheaper, and we expect electric mobility to continue to get cheaper. Things also like range anxiety, has also, the problem of range anxiety has also been curtailed by the provision of, charging piles. And this technology is, of course, subject to funds and willingness of governments to really push this agenda. So if a government is genuinely interested in pushing the agenda of electric mobility, the infrastructure to be able to make, range extended as a result of, charging piles being available will become an agenda they place very high on their priority list. So range anxiety is also solved. The cost is going down. So cost of electric vehicles will be continually going down. Range anxiety by provision of charging piles is also being solved. More importantly, how we dispose of the batteries when they have lived their full life is also a concern. But the good news is that, you see, a lot of technology, there's advancement in technology, and the advancement in technology is so great such that any battery that is being used now can be recycled up to the next 130 years. So any battery, in any lithium battery in any gadget that is being used now can be recycled and reused for a period of the next 130 years. And then what happens after 130 years is another subject altogether. And this opens discussion for other forms of, energy being used to power vehicles. And people are talking about hydrogen, because then when hydrogen runs out of your tank, it's run out, and it only needs refueling. So the discussion has been ongoing. But what I will want us to consider is that the fact that Shell looked at the future of energy in 2013, and the video I'm about to show you will help you to understand that a little bit more. The fact that Shell looked into the future of energy in 2013 and was able to develop scenarios, and these scenarios are not predictions of the future. These scenarios are only telling stories of the future based and from a standpoint of not certainty, but from a standpoint of uncertainty. So what is likely to happen if these players behave this way? What is likely to happen if these factors act, this way, or these factors begin to, behave this way? So we are looking at two things here: actors and factors. The behavior of these actors and factors, will determine the direction of the future. And the job of leadership in countries is not to necessarily prepare financially for this future, but the job of leadership is to prepare intellectually for this future, is to have discussions around possible futures, of course, to include these possible futures in their own strategic plans, and I see that countries like the UAE have really adopted these scenarios. They have thought about things that people seem a little bit, confused about, and are acting towards those futures. So I'll allow you to watch the video, which was made in 2013 by Shell, and I own no right to this video. I'm just inserting it into this video, and I will be more than happy to get your feedback in the comment section. And one of the factors that also will go a long way to contribute to, and which make me believe that Africa should begin to look at electric mobility is the fact that a country like Ethiopia has actually already banned the importation of fuel combustion cars.
Ethiopia is becoming the first country in the world to ban internal combustion engines. Done. It's done, Brian. They've banned internal combustion engines. They've had it with oil. Ethiopia spent nearly $6 billion to import fossil fuels last year, with more than half of that spending going to fuel vehicles. In response, Ethiopia's transport and logistics ministries have announced that automobiles cannot enter Ethiopia unless they are electric. They offer the nation's inability to access favorable foreign exchange resources. That's contributed to the inability to afford to continue to import that gas and diesel. Yeah.
The willingness of governments to move towards green energy is becoming stronger and stronger in Africa. These, actors and factors, governments and factors such as, the range anxiety being eliminated and recycled lithium batteries having an extended shelf life, are making the advent of electric mobility closer and closer. So we cannot run away from accepting electric mobility anymore. It's here to stay. There is very little that anyone can do about it at this point. And also the fact that, again, it costs 1/10 of what it takes to run a full combustion car. So these things are making it so ripe. The season is now and the time is now for us to accept electric mobility. And I would like to encourage everyone who is interested in this area along the value chain to look seriously into it and to consider it carefully. And thank you very much. And please do well to like and follow this page. And thank you very much once again. Bye.
So I'm very interested in bringing together different ideas, and I found the scenario process was great for that. You wouldn't just stick in your familiar silo of economics. You'd be talking to people outside your area of expertise and getting different perspectives, and that's really enriched my writing.
I think there's an enormous necessity for this kind of approach because our futures right now are unpredictable. Perhaps the worst temptation in scenario planning is to think that it's about the future. It's really not. It's really about the present. It's about how you make decisions now.
Scenario planning can be used for multiple purposes. I think the most common one that I see and that we participate in is simply stress testing an existing strategy. Secondly, you can try to come up with new growth options, not the existing strategy, but make the strategy better. And thirdly, you can use it to just educate people in the organization so you have a framework for better dialogue.
Shell scenarios are a unique source for all of us who think about the energy future. Like all good scenarios, and indeed many of them built on that model, they're not predictions, they're a vehicle for telling stories. But the stories they tell to change the picture of reality in the minds of the leaders reading them are often provocative, fresh, and of course the underlying trick is to choose the axes correctly. That's the hardest part. Once you ask the right questions, the answers tend to become self-evident. I think it's been a vital intellectual contribution to the world of energy. I can't imagine our having the progress that we now see in the global energy transformation without this important foundation.
Well, Shell has played a very critical role, especially in the early years, in helping the Singapore government develop scenario planning as a basic tool for strategic planning. Without scenario planning, we would not have gone as far as we've come in terms of our ability and capacity to plan for the future.
You start from the premise of not what you know, it's what you don't know, and plan for those uncertainties. So scenarios became part of everybody's planning processes in South Africa. Soon after the Montfleur scenarios, trade unions, the NUM, COSATU were using it in their organizations. But what it allowed the government to do, and the people of South Africa, is to think about the future from the same premise. All that Shell wanted to say was that we have a tool. And the methodology that we use in scenario planning can be used anywhere in the world.
I think it has been used by a number of companies for complex issues where you need to find a language to talk about things. So what Shell started once upon a time has spun off a whole industry, and you have given us a picture, a story about the future world that is highly relevant for our thinking about the OECD.
The standard of living is rising in the developing world. And with that, the demand for energy will grow as well. So if there's one word to describe the future of energy, it's bright, but complex. Preparing for different futures does not require upfront investment right away. It requires intellectual preparation.
I think what these scenarios do is to make you realize that there will be many unexpected developments. The one that's obvious today is the fact all over the world now we're having shale developments for both oil and for natural gas, which has changed the structure, oil and energy developments worldwide. I think it's essential that we keep looking for oil and gas. And luckily in the United States we found oil and gas unexpectedly. When I say unexpectedly, and even in the most interesting scenarios, 10 or 15 years ago, we weren't really thinking of the kind of ways we've developed oil and gas since.
We are dealing so often with unknowledge and unforeknowledge. So with that clear idea that we don't know the future, we can't just forecast. We can't create a model, turn a handle.
I think scenario planning is perhaps the most important analytical tool we have, and Shell is and has been the most important innovator in that process.